My name is Miya Turnbull. I am a visual artist based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is on the east coast of Canada. I work in many different mediums, but for the past few years, I've really been focusing on making self portrait masks, photography, and video work. My masks are essentially a three-dimensional portrait of myself. I start with a plaster cast on my face, and I use layers of paper mache, and then I collage photographs on the final layer to stretch out a two-dimensional photo of myself. From there, I sometimes alter or distort my image by misaligning my facial features or changing the shape of the mask underneath. Sometimes I cut up the faces and reattach them together in different ways. The masks are sculptural, but they are also wearable, so this allows me to work with photography as well as video performances to expand my explorations within self portraiture. I was born on a farm in rural Alberta. My mom is Japanese Canadian and my dad is British Canadian. I am third and fourth generation Canadian on both sides, so I'm very privileged that my great grandparents and grandparents really paved the road for me to have so many options in life, especially when it comes to choosing art as a career, which is not easy. Being biracial has impacted my identity in many significant ways. I always felt like I wasn't Asian enough or not white enough to fit in, and now I see being mixed as a blessing. But growing up, I found it hard, and people were constantly asking me to identify myself. Where was I from? Why did I look like that? This mask work would not have evolved the way it has if it hadn't been for those daily experiences growing up. Growing up and working on a farm taught me to have incredible work ethic, so that has also impacted my success and drive as a self employed artist. My daughter and family are my first priority, and everything else revolves around that. And I work 24/7 on making new work, writing grants, exhibit proposals, managing social media, and organizing future projects, as well as constantly working on current projects. Growing up, I was influenced heavily by my mother, who began her pottery career when we were young kids. She began selling out of our living room, turning it into a gallery, and then at craft fairs, working really hard to pack everything up, drive to the city, set up, and be at the mercy of people who didn't want to pay high prices for pottery, even though she always undersold her work. It got very interesting when she transitioned from making strictly functional pottery to exploring sculptural pieces that really started digging into her past and into her emotions. She was affected by the internment of Japanese Canadians during World War II, and her family was forced to move from the West Coast in BC to southern Alberta to work on the sugar beet farms. My family experienced severe racism and shame, and this was all finally coming out in her artwork, which I thought was so powerful. My dad, too, was a big influence on me. He was so hardworking as a farmer, always at the whim of the weather and machinery breaking down and having to come up with solutions on the go. In terms of artists, I grew up loving the work of Georgia O'Keeffe, how she would focus in on the inside of a flower, for example, in her large scale paintings, which were exquisite. In university, when I was doing my BFA, I learned more about contemporary artists and was really inspired by the work of Cindy Sherman, who worked with self portraits and variations, recreating herself a new image, which is something I explore a lot in my current work. Right now, I'm focusing on making new masks, always trying to come up with a new variation each time and expanding my collection of them. I love having multiples of the masks to work with. It's also taking time to play and explore with each new mask and find different movements or gestures, or finding new ways to layer masks upon masks, or have them open up or close up when I'm wearing them. I find it really exciting to explore so many different options in my work. I'm also collaborating with different dance artists, so I'm moving into the realm of performing live with the masks on stage versus performing alone with the masks for the camera. I'm just about to start a new project with Emiko Agatsuma, who is a Buto dancer and choreographer from Japan, and I'm really excited. The biggest challenge of being an artist is always trying to line up new funding for projects and exhibits. I spend so much time writing and hoping for grants, which are getting increasingly more challenging to get. I've been very lucky to receive them before, but it's never a guarantee that you'll get one again, especially since there's so many talented artists in Canada also trying to get funding and less money available. We're actually really lucky that Canada does have this option. I know so many countries don't even offer this. I really don't want to have to sell my masks since I like to keep them together for exhibits and performances. So I do rely heavily on grants and artist fees for exhibits, workshops, and talks just to keep going and to keep making the work that I want to create instead of trying to make products to sell. If I could give advice to my younger self, it would be to not give up and keep making the art that you want to make about what you know. Don't try and make art for other people. I had no idea that Instagram would be such a powerful platform to share my art to people all around the world, and I'm really grateful for that visibility. I used to think I couldn't make it in the art world, but now I realize there are so many other ways to show my art that doesn't have to be in the most prestigious art gallery. There are so many people who resonate with my work and will offer me opportunities, which is really exciting. I like that my masks are somewhat of an unconventional medium and that I use basic collage and paper mache skills to make them. I could do this much more easily by digitally scanning my face and 3D printing my masks, but there's something about the hands on experience of making the masks layer by layer that also inspires new ideas. I don't know many artists who are working with masks in the same way in terms of photorealism and self portraiture, so I feel really lucky that I tapped into this. The medium of mask making in itself is so interesting with all the history and symbolism and references, and then adding in my own personal twist to it adds another dimension to the field. When I'm mask making, I really enjoy watching TV shows or movies, so it's my guilt-free way of binge watching shows. When I'm wearing the masks in performance, I actually like to have music in the background, but I'm almost always using my phone as my video camera, so I can't do both as once at once. Plus, something about working in silence by myself, since the movement then comes from inside of me rather than influenced by the music I might be listening to. I am really so honored if anything I show resonates with someone. I've had people from all backgrounds connect to my work, which is such a big compliment. My favorite though was during one solo exhibition, and I saw a kid just come running towards my masks, and the parents had to follow and see what it was that interested them so much. I love that they didn't find it scary, but really intriguing. Sometimes people are disturbed or shocked by the masks, which I understand because there's this uncanny quality to them. But to me, that's also a compliment that it affects them in this way. I also don't particularly love cutting up my masks into pieces, but there is something really cool about being able to do things like that to my face that I couldn't do in reality. I hope that people see themselves in my work too. Even though I'm making self-portraits, it isn't about how I look or that I want attention in that way. It's just about using what I have available as a way to talk about identity personally, but also collectively. I love that my mask can mean so many different things to so many different people.